Hi everyone, my name's Heidi Postle. Welcome back to A+ Maths. Alright, let's continue on with number 2. So we know that we have to start from a starting point and then we have to go from our starting point to A, B and C. So we can start at a point, I like to call it my starting point, and then I need to have 3 activities coming from that starting point. There are 3 options. It can be either A, or B, or C. And I can choose which route I go on first, A, B and C. Then I go from A to D. So from option A, I can get to activity D. I can't get there from any of the others, from A to D. Now just so that I don't forget where I'm up to, I might just tick them off as I go. I'm up to this one, from activity B to activity E. From activity B, that's the end of activity B, I can get to activity E. Then from activity C, I can get to activity F. So good so far. Then E and D can go to activity G. From E, D, go to G. Now remember, I did say to you that this bit was a little bit tricky because from E and D, you can get to the point G. Now, this actually means that you have to have E and D together to get to the point G. You can't have a choice of or E or D. It has to be the point that joins E and D together, which means that I actually have to join these 2 together. So D should be like that, E should be like that, which makes the G has to come from D and E. Then from G, I can get to H, activity H. And because F is just sitting there in the middle of nowhere, of course we can't just leave him in the middle of nowhere. After doing F, you would end, so we can join that up straight to H. And that's how you would do it. So be aware that when you have 2 predecessors, E, D to G, the easiest way to do that usually is to join them together into one point. So let's have a look at another one. Question number 3. Again, I know that I'm starting from here. In the end, I get to H, which is all the way down here. These are your predecessors. This is where you're starting from, and you're going to the letters over there. This is our starting point. We go from A to B, from A to C, from C to D, from B to E. Remember, this is the same point. So we know, if we plan a little bit ahead, that E and D have to be the same point. They're up here, E and D. So we might want to think about that while we're doing the network graph. From F to G and from G to H. Remember, we're only writing this down to help us at the beginning. Once you get better at it, you're not going to need to write all those words down. Pick a point to start. And then we need to go from our starting point, we can do activity A. From activity A, we can get to B and to C. So from activity A, there are 2 options. We can either go to activity B or we can go to activity C. Then from activity C, we can go to D. And from activity B, we can go to E. But I remember thinking that E and D had to be the same point from when we were writing them down, and that's why I've got E and D going to the same point, because the next one says that E and D need to go to F. So that now can go to activity F. F can go to G, and G can go to H. F goes to G and G goes to H. Now, because our network graph is moving from the start to the end, we really should be putting arrows on everything to indicate the direction in which our activities are going. And then you can write end or finish when we're done. Let's try another one with everything together. So let's have a look at number 4. It's a lot longer than the other ones that we've done, but as long as we stick to our method and we do it methodically and we think about what's going to happen first so that we're planning for ahead, then we should be fine. Let's take a look. We know we're starting here. We're starting there. We know we're ending down here. We know that I and J should be the same point, and E and F should be the same point. And we should try to think about that first while we're doing the actual graph on the right, so that we are prepared for it when we get there. Same point. And just keep that in mind, that when we're doing I and J, they should go to the same point. And when we're doing activity E and activity F, they also should go to the same point. We also should notice here that I've actually added an extra column, and this is our time column. And this is where our weighting networks comes in. So not only are we now going to draw a network graph from this activity chart, but we're also going to put the weightings on every activity that we have. And we're going to get those weights from the list here. Let's start. We know that from the starting point we need to go to activities A and B. Activity A and activity B. And activity A has a time of 5 and activity B has a time of 1. So we just put those numbers next to them. Let's keep going. From activity A, we go to C. And from activity B, we go to D. And I forgot to tick them off, and that's always a little bit dangerous, and I haven't done my times. So to get from activity A to C, that's 2, and from B to D, that's 3. From activity C to E is 8. Don't forget that E and F had to be the same point. So I'm trying to remember that. And D to F, remembering that E and F should have ended up at the same point. And D to F, activity F was 1. Now from that point, EF, which I've got now is here, I can go to G, and that should take 4. Then from G to H, and that should have taken 6. Then what do I have? I have H to I and H to J. So H has to go to I and J, but I and J have to be the same point. Now that's a bit strange, isn't it? Because how can I have I and J being 2 separate activities, but they have to go to the same point? Well, that's impossible, isn't it? And that's where I need to put in what's called a dummy. They have to be connected to each other, but I can't separate them and I can't join them. They both have to go to separate places. It has to go to I, and it has a completely different time than J, which is 2. But from both of these points, I can get to K. And I join them by putting a dummy from one to the other, and then from this point, I would go to K. Good luck, and see you next time. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Have fun.